Good evening, panelists. We are the researchers of an analysis of oral communication skills of the junior high school teachers during online class. Basis for proposed communication training program for teachers. We will now begin our presentation.
If people had the right skills and intention to communicate well, there would be no conflict. The better we are at communicating, the better our lives will be. By Yama Mubtakar. Oral communication during online class is a communicating with spoken words with the use of different gadgets or the internet. It's a verbal form of communication where you communicate your thoughts, present ideas, and share information virtually. Effective oral communication skills of teachers can build a good relationship with the students, which could make the students feel motivated, dedicated, courageous, and willing to learn even though the students and teachers only met online. The ineffective communication skills of the teacher can cause bad effects such as the students would feel burden, laziness, and even stress, especially with the setup of the education nowadays. COVID-19 pandemic brought a lot of changes and the system of education has been affected. Other schools in the Philippines use a modular learning approach, especially public school, while private school mostly do a blended learning approach or online classes for which the students and teachers interact virtually. In Santo Niño de Praga Academy, personality, clarity of speech, sense of humor, and active listening are some of the things or factors that affects the effectiveness of oral communication skills of the junior high school teachers during online classes. Problems observed by the researchers. First is the lack of showing enthusiasm. As a facilitator of learning, teachers must cut the interest of the students by showing enthusiasm for them to be active in oral communication. Second is the lack of sense of students feel bored when their teacher is too serious in delivering the lesson. And for the discussion to become lively, the teacher must tell jokes, share personal experiences in connection with the topic to lighten the mood of the students and to lessen the pressure that they may have. Third is the fluency in speaking English or Filipino language. Sometimes teachers cannot avoid the influence of using our native language because there are students who have difficulty in understanding the mode of communication that the teacher are using, especially English language, that can affect on the communication between the teacher and the students. And lastly is a technical problem that the teachers can experience during the online class, such having a loss of connection or unstable internet connection that may become a hindrance for the teachers for them to be heard by the class or for the teachers and students to have an effective communication. The researchers conduct this study to determine if the oral communication skills of the junior high school teachers are effective from this new normal in education. The conceptual framework is a visual representation of the expected relationship between variables. It was a guide or basis of the flow of the study. The conceptual framework includes an independent variable, dependent variable, mediator, moderator, and the feedback, which was added due to the proposed communication training program of the researchers. The independent variable is a variable that is being manipulated and is assumed to have a direct effect on the dependent variable. For this study, the independent variable was the junior high school teachers. This variable is constant and being manipulated. The dependent variable is a variable being tested and measured in research and is dependent on the independent variable. The level of the effectiveness of oral communication skills of the junior high school teachers was measured in this paper. The mediator explains the process through which two variables are related. The objective of this research was to analyze the oral communication skills of the junior high school teachers during online class, basis for proposed training program. Specifically, this sought to answer the following questions. First is what is the demographic profile of the respondents in terms of grade level and gender? What is the level of effectiveness of oral communication skills of the junior high school teachers during online class when grouped according to personality, clarity of speech, sense of humor, active listening? Third is what is the overall level of the effectiveness of oral communication skills of the junior high school teachers during online classes when respondents are grouped according to demographic? And lastly, what is the proposed communication training program for oral communication skills of the junior high school teachers to enhance the communication skills? Significance of the study. This study will benefit the following. First is the teachers will be aware of their performances. This study will help them improve their oral communication skills from the proposed training program of the researchers. Next is the students. Students will improve their understanding about the oral communication skills of their teacher. Next is the academic coordinators. This research will benefit the academic coordinators for them to be aware of the effectiveness of the oral communication and teaching skills of the teachers to the students. Next is the school administrators. Administrator will benefit as well since they will be able to obtain extra information and insight that they can apply to improve the oral communication skills. Next is the parents. This research may also benefit the parents. They will be able to know if there is an effective on the teacher's oral communication with their child. Next is the Department of Education. Will also benefit the Department of Education because they might think of some plans and strategies to improve the oral communication skills of teachers. Next is the researchers. Also benefit from this study for he or she can get insight on how to have effective oral communication skills for the teachers. Next is the future teachers. Will be able to assess it themselves and evaluate their skills, particularly in speaking. This will also help them to have an effective oral communication to their future students. Future researchers can use this as the reference data in conducting new research or in the other related findings. This study will able serve as the cross-reference that will give them background or an overview of the oral communication skills of the teachers. This research work conducted in the year of 2021 to 2022 at Trece Martires City, Cavite, mainly focused on the analysis of the oral communication skills of junior high school teachers during online classes. This paper evaluated the effectiveness of the junior high school teachers when communicating with the students during online classes. This was the basis of the proposed communication training program of the researchers, which could lead to the improvement of the quality of education of the school, especially in terms of oral communication. The researchers' survey questionnaire mainly focused on the analysis of the oral communication skills of the junior high school teachers during online classes in terms of personality, clarity of speech, sense of humor, and active listening. There was measured in this paper. The mediator explains the process through which questions for the better understanding of the study. Relevant terms used in the study were definite conceptually and opportunity. Analysis refers to the examination or studying the oral communication skills of the junior high school teachers during online classes. Communication barriers. It means the problem encountered in the communication. Communication process. Series of action or steps taken in order to successful communication. It includes the several components such as the sender of the communication and the decoding of the message. Communication techniques. It is the method used by the communicator, speaker, or listener to make an interaction with other people. Junior high school teachers refers to the educator currently teaching in Santo Niño de Praga Academy for academic year 2021 to 2022. Online class. This word means the alternative to traditional class, face-to-face, during online classes, teachers and students virtually. Oral communication, with spoken words during online class, is a verbal form of communication where you communicate your thoughts, present ideas, and share information. Oral communication skills word means skills or techniques used by the teachers when speaking or teaching the student during online classes. Pregenians, this means the junior high school students of Santo Niño de Praga Academy. Researchers, this word refers to the person who conducted this study. Teachers, this word refers to the group of people who are currently teaching in Santo Niño de Praga Academy training program. Activity or activities that includes undertaking one or a series of courses to boost performance, productivity, skills, and knowledge. Chapter 2, Review of Related Literature. Concept of communication, types of communication, oral communication skills, principles of oral communication skills, and barriers of oral communication skills during online class are the subtopics for this study. It is belong in the conceptual framework. Concept of literature. Communication is defined as the transfer of facts, information, ideas, suggestions, order, requests, grievances, and other from one person to another, so as to impart a complete understanding of the subject matter of communication to the recipient. Therefore, the desired response from the recipient to such communication. Communication is a fundamental to the existence and survival of humans as well as the organization it is. A process of creating and sharing ideas, information, views, facts, and feelings from one place, person, or group to another. Communication is the key to the directing function of management. Types of communication. First is the verbal communication. It occurs when engaged in speaking with others. It can be face-to-face, other the telephone, via Skype or Zoom, etc. Some verbal engagements are informal, such as chatting with friends over coffee or in the office kitchen, while others are more formal, such as scheduled meeting. Next is the non-verbal communication. It is transfer of information through the use of includes facial expression, posture, eye contact, and hand movement and touch. Everyone uses non-verbal communication all the time, whether they know it or not. Non-verbal communication is dependent on seeing and analyzing physical movements. Next is the written communication. It is any written message that two or more people exchange. Written communication is typically more formal but less efficient than oral communication. Next is listening. It is ability to accurately receive and interpret message in the communication process. Listening is the key to all effective communication. Without the ability of listening, messages are easily misunderstood. Visual communication. It is the transmission of information and ideas using symbols and imagery. It is one of the three main types of communication, along with verbal communication and non-verbal communication. It is believed to be the type of the people rely on most, and it includes signs, graphic designs, films, and typography. Oral communication skills are one of the active listening. It is requires in listening attentively to a speaker, understanding what they are saying, responding, and reflecting on what's being said. Next is emotional intelligence. It is the capacity of a person to manage, interpret, and respond to any given situation by understanding and looking at the emotion of other people. Next is articulation and tone of your voice. It is the ability to physically move the tongue, lips, teeth, and jaw to produce sequences of speech sounds which make up words and sentences. Next is the clarity. It is the characteristic of speech or a prose composition that communicates effectively with the intended audience. Next is sense of humor. Someone who has a sense of humor often finds things amusing rather than being serious all the time. Next is the small talk. It is a meaningless conversation that we conduct to put others at ease. Small talk is an acquired social skill because for some it becomes a part of their existence, whereas others find it overwhelming. Next is the empathy. These soft skills include understanding the viewpoint of others and making adjustment accordingly. A person who is empathetic will consider every point, respect the wishes of others. Next is respect. Others, by listening to them attentively and communicating with them in an appropriate manner, make sure that sounds genuine and sincere in efforts. Next is the feedback. The transmission of the evaluation or corrective information about an action, event, or process to the original or controlling source, also information so transmitted. Feedback should be presented in a positive, tactful, and non-threatening manner. Lastly is the personality. It plays a key role in organization behavior because of the way that people think, feel, and behave affects many aspects of the workplace. People personalities influence their behavior in groups or communication, their attitudes, and the way they make decisions. These are the principles of oral communication. First is the conciseness. It states that the message should be conveyed in a concise form in the best, shortest possible way. In other words, the message or information should be articulated completely in such a way that it's forwarded to the desired audience. Next is the clarity or clear communication, also an important aspect for individuals and in a business communication. By following the clarity, a principle of communication, one can focus on a specific message at a time. Next is the correctness. One can better understand or interpret the more accurate message. The guidelines for correct or accurate communication are covered under the principle of correctness. If the message is correct, then its impact is also great and it also boosts the confidence of the sender. Next is the concreteness. The clear and particular message is defined as the concrete message. The concreteness principle of communication states that while communicating, the message should be to be point or specific, definite, and clear instead of being general or unclear. Next is the completeness. Communications should be complete to be effective. Message is said to be complete when the recipient of the message receives all the necessary information that they want to be informed. Next is the courteousness. It states that while communicating, the sender should show respect to the audience or receiver. So the sender should be polite, enthusiastic, reflective, and sincere. Lastly is the coherence. Communication should be coherent. Both consistency and logical should be part of the sender's message. Without being logical or coherent, the main purpose of idea behind the message can't be conveyed properly. All terms of the message should be interconnected and relevant to the message being conveyed. These are the barriers of oral communication during online class. First is the physical distance. It refers to the condition that act as a roadblock and prevent effective communication. These are easily visible and can take any form of instance, closed doors or walls. The physical barrier is very high if the distance between the sender and receiver is also too much. Next is the insufficient technology skills. Refers to your ability to interact and complete tasks using computer-based technologies and other associated technologies. These tasks can either be digital or physical. Sometimes these skills may be referred to as technical skills. Refers to the condition of lack information in using technologies. Next is accessibility barriers are often overlooked in the drive toward digital communication or online oral communication is effective only when people of all abilities can access, use, and understand information. Attention barriers. It's when the people miss out on what you have to say because they are distracted from giving other message their full focus when someone try to communicate with people while they are on their computer, tablet, smartphone, or other devices competing for their attention with both the online and real-world distraction. Next is the time constraint. Is a term that defines various factors that limit projects in terms of time. This includes deadlines, workload management, and resource allocation. Anyone that has worked on a project had to deal with a certain constraints when it came in section. Research literature. The study conducted by Alkamasa Omar Saud in 2022 entitled Communication Skills and Its Role in Decreasing Attention in Online Learning During COVID-19 Pandemic case study of public school will be a big help to the researcher in formulating the recommendation. The study sought to assess the perception of the student regarding the role of the teacher communication skills in their academic success. The present study indicates that the degree of communication skills of teachers during the COVID-19 pandemic in public schools was moderate. Furthermore, the degree of students' tension in online learning was moderate as well. The study recommended the necessity of using new methods and innovative teaching methods to improve the communication skills of teachers and students, such as using games activities and getting support from parents to reduce tension in online learning. This study recommends that there's a need to improve students and teachers' communication skills during the corona pandemic and the ensuing closure of schools and the adoption of distance learning to reduce stress and anxiety about failure, the decline in the academic level, and failure to achieve high achievement. In 2020, Muhammad Alawalmle, Lana Muhammad Altwit, and Garamara Afat Al-Sat conducted a research work titled The Effect of Online Learning on Communication Between Instructors and Students During COVID-19 Pandemic. This research generally focused on the effect of communication between instructor and students in a negative way, whether online learning affects students' productivity levels, and evaluating and suggesting ways of improving effective online communication between instructors and students. This research reached the students' point of view in broader way which will help them understand the issue and provide effective solutions. This research suggests the instructors must communicate with their students and vice versa in more information channels in parallel with the formal channels. Finally, instructors should encourage students to participate and study more by providing a different kind of incentives. The research conceptual literature is connected to this study and analysis of oral communication skills of the junior high school teachers during online class, basis for proposed communication training program for teachers, based on various study and articles about oral communication skills. All information mentioned in the research literature is similar and relevant to the research study. Perhaps the information gathered considerably assisted the researchers in expanding their area of understanding and expertise, as well as guiding in the study's result.
Chapter 3 Methodology. This chapter presents the researcher methodology that will be used in the study. It contains the following section: A. Research design, B. Population and sampling, C. Respondents, D. Research instruments, E. Data gathering procedure, and F. Statistical treatment of the data. Population and sampling. This research used cluster random sampling, which are the junior high school students of SNDPA-LPH for academic year 2021-2022, namely grade 7, grade 8, grade 9, and grade 10. Table 1 shows the target and actual respondents of this study, which came from the junior high school students of SNDPA-LPH and Trece Martyrs City, Cavite for the academic year 2021-2022. Research instrument. The data and information needed in the study are gathered through the use of online survey questionnaire. The researcher survey questionnaire focused on the effectiveness of oral communication skills of junior high school teachers of Santo Niño de Praga Academy of La Paz Homes 2 Incorporation during online class. Data gathering procedure. The researchers prepared the letter for approval before conducting the research. This includes 1. Researcher gave a letter of approval to the school principal. 2. The researcher inquired for the master list of grade 7, 8, 9, and 10 students of Santo Niño de Praga Academy of La Paz Homes 2 Incorporation because they are the needed respondents of the study. 3. The researcher made the request to the advisors of grade 7, 8, 9, and 10 to add them on their respective group chat for the data gathering. 4. The researcher sent the letter to the respondents in the respective group chats together with the survey questionnaire to be answered by the respondents of the study. In the letter, the title of the study and the purpose of the study was introduced by the researchers. 5. Within 3 weeks, the researcher waited for the answers of the respondents to the survey form distributed to them. Lastly, after the data was gathered, the researcher started to get the result of the answers of the respondents to the survey questionnaire. Statistical treatment. The following statistical tools and procedures will be used to analyze and interpret the data gathered. Frequency count. This statistical tool is used to determine the number or quantity of responses made by the respondents to the different questions. This provides an answer to problem 1, 2, and 3. Percentage. This was applied to establish a comparative value of an item to the whole activity, particularly in relation to the demographic profile of the respondents. This provided an answer to problem 1. Weighted mean. This is used to categorize the obtained average data score. It provided an answer to problems 2 and 3. Average weighted mean. A statistical tool was obtained by adding the weighted mean of every response for each category. This tool was used to answer problem 3. Likert scale. This tool was used to gather data that will answer several questions for the problem of the study and to measure the effectiveness of oral communication skills of junior high school teachers in Santo Niño de Praga Academy of La Paz Homes 2 Incorporation during online classes. 4. Always. 3. Sometimes. 2. Rarely. 1. Never. Scale. The following scale were also used to identify the verbal interpretation of the gathered data. 4.25 up to 5. Very effective. 3.50 up to 4.24 effective. 2.75 up to 3.49 moderately effective. Below 2.74 ineffective.
For problem number 1, the findings for grade level was there were 46 respondents or 30.07% came from grade 8 level. There were 43 respondents or 28.10% came from grade 7 level. There were 29 respondents or 18.95% came from grade 9 level, and there were 35 respondents or 22.86% came from grade 10. And for the gender, the respondents of this study were mostly female, with a frequency count of 77 and a percentage of 50.33. And the remaining were the male respondents with a frequency count of 76 and a percentage of 49.67. Conclusion. Grade level. There were more respondents in a grade 8 level because the population of grade 8 students in SNDPA was greater than the other grade levels. For the gender, there were more female respondents who responded to the survey questionnaire of the researchers than males, probably because the population of female in junior high school at Santo Niño de Praga Academy was greater than the male ones. The recommendation for problem 1 was all the projected respondents should be participative in taking part of a research study to be able to get the most accurate result of a research study. The findings for problem number 2 letter A personality was question 1 has a mean of 3.79, question 2 has a mean of 3.53, question 3 has a mean of 3.62, question 4 has a mean of 3.86, and question 5 has a mean of 3.77. All of them has a verbal interpretation of effective. For the conclusion, the level of effectiveness of oral communication skills of the junior high school teachers during online classes when grouped according to personality was effective. The recommendation: teachers must possess effective oral communication skills to encourage the students to participate in the discussion during an online class. The findings for clarity of speech from problem number 2 was question 1 has a mean of 3.74, question 2 has a mean of 3.76, question 3 has a mean of 3.81, question 4 has a mean of 3.77, and question 5 has a mean of 3.72. All of them has a verbal interpretation of effective. The conclusion. The level of effectiveness of oral communication skills of the junior high school teachers during online classes when grouped according to the clarity of speech was effective. Recommendation. Students must actively participate in the discussion, especially during recitation, so that there would be an exchange of ideas between the teacher and the students. The findings for letter C, sense of humor, question number 1 has a mean of 3.48 and the verbal interpretation of moderately effective. Question 2 has a mean of 3.59. Question 3 has a mean of 3.74. Question 4 has a mean of 3.70 and question 5 has a mean of 3.62. Question 2 to 5 has a verbal interpretation of effective. The conclusion was the level of effectiveness of oral communication skills of the junior high school teachers during online classes when grouped according to the sense of humor was effective. The findings for active listening, question 1 has a mean of 3.87, question 2 has a mean of 3.70, question 3 has a mean of 3.68, question 4 has a mean of 3.79, and question 5 has a mean of 3.66. All of them has a verbal interpretation of effective. The conclusion was the level of effectiveness of oral communication skills of the junior high school teachers during online classes when grouped according to the active listening was effective. The findings for problem number 3 according to grade level. Grade 7 has a mean of 3.61, Grade 8 has a mean of 3.76, Grade 9 has a mean of 3.76, and Grade 10 has a mean of 3.65. All of them has a verbal interpretation of effective. The average weighted mean of the level of effectiveness of oral communication skills of the junior high school teachers during online classes when respondents are grouped according to the grade level was 3.70 and the verbal interpretation of effective. The conclusion was the overall level of effectiveness of the oral communication skills of the junior high school teachers during online classes according to the grade level of respondents was effective. The recommendation was teachers must have a self-awareness about their oral communication skills. For problem number 3, the findings for gender was female respondents has a mean of 3.73 and the verbal interpretation of effective, while male respondents has a mean of 3.67 and the verbal interpretation of effective. The total average weighted mean level of effectiveness of the oral communication skills of the junior high school teachers during online classes when respondents are grouped according to gender was 3.7 and the verbal interpretation of effective. The conclusion. According to the gender of respondents, the overall level of effectiveness of the oral communication skills of the teachers during online classes was effective. Findings of problem number 4 was, webinars are highly effective when it comes to teaching or giving knowledge or information, especially nowadays when everyone uses technology. The conclusion is, webinars can help to improve the oral communication skills of the teachers. Recommendation: teachers must attend different seminars or webinars that can help to improve their oral communication skills. And school administrators must be aware of the technical problems that the teachers can encounter during online class and immediately address it.
And that's the end of our presentation. Thank you.